JBN, we keep you informed. The rise and fall of Donald Zekes Phipps, Part 2. The prosecution's case against downtown Don Donald Zekes Phipps showed early signs of trouble, as a key witness for the Crown had signaled an unwillingness to testify. Zeeks and Garfield Williams is charged jointly for the May 2005 murders of Rodney Farquharson and Dayton Williams, both of Bayshore Park, Arborview. But when the matter came up for mention in the Home Circuit Court before Justice Marva McIntosh, Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecution DPP, Paula Llewellyn, told the court that a key witness to the Crown's case had certain fears and was unwilling to testify. Llewellyn said the Crown was informed by the police of a stalemate position which was threatening the witness testimony in the case set for trial December 5. Llewellyn told Justice McIntosh that it was her understanding that the witness was fearful and asked the judge to allay his or her fears with certain guarantees. Using guarded language and careful not to disclose the name of the witness or even his or her connection to the case, Llewellyn said she too was fearful that the Crown would not be able to proceed on December 5 if the matter was not settled. However, Justice McIntosh indicated an unwillingness to even hear the matter. McIntosh explained that she did not know if she would be the trial judge and was therefore reluctant to take any binding decisions at this stage. Besides, the judge noted that the trial had not yet started. The urgency of the issue brought Attorney at Law Paul Beswick to the courtroom, and after a short conference with Llewellyn, he said that the matter not be discussed in open court. Lloyd McFarlane, who is appearing with K. Churchill Nita for the defense, expressed some annoyance about the issue and told Justice McIntosh that no application had been made by the prosecution in relation to the witness. Justice McIntosh agreed with McFarlane, but also agreed to hear the matters in chambers in the presence of the court reporter. Meanwhile, unlike 2 weeks before, when the supporters of Matthews Lane clashed with the police after he was denied bail and the shots rang out in the vicinity of the court, it was largely uneventful. Phipps, wearing a grey pinstripe suit with a double-breasted jacket and white shirt, was remanded until December 5 when the trial is set to start. Zeeks will spend Christmas in prison, as he was again denied bail Monday when he appeared in the Home Circuit Court before Justice Gloria Smith. This follows the request from a postponement of the proceedings by defense attorney Lloyd McFarlane, who told Justice Smith that lead defense K. Churchill Nita was tied up with the Crowell trial, which is in its 5th week. But the prosecution, led by Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions DPP, Paula Llewellyn, said the Crown was ready to proceed with the trial. The attorneys later agreed to a January 16 resumption date. But on the Monday, McFarlane drew the ire of the prosecution when he challenged their readiness to proceed, saying that so far the defense had not been presented with the list containing the names of witnesses the Crown plans to call. Llewellyn sprang to her feet, telling the court that, given the nature of the case, the prosecution would not be making any of its civilian witnesses available before a jury was empaneled. When that is done, they will be ready. They are in Jamaica and only a phone call away, she added. McFarlane found himself in more hot water with the Crown when he applied for bail for Zeeks, whose bail application had been denied at least 3 times before. Zeeks has been in custody since June. Zeeks was remanded until January 16. Williams' bail was extended to that time as well. The trial of Zeeks hit a snag on Monday, January 16, 2006, when he reappeared in the Home Circuit Court on charge of murder. Trial Judge Horace March granted an application from Defense Counsel K. Churchill Nita for a postponement and set March 6 for the trial to commence. However, the case will be mentioned again on Tuesday, January 17, to bond over a prosecution witness who was subpoenaed to testify. Finally, the murder trial of Zeeks started in the Gun Court Division of the Supreme Court on Monday, March 6, 2006. 31 witnesses were slated to testify in the trial. Zeeks is being represented by a team of attorneys headed by K. Churchill Nita, Lloyd McFarlane, Valerie Nita Robertson, and George Sota, while the prosecution is being represented by a team from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution DPP, headed by Senior Deputy Director Paula Llewellyn. Garfield Williams, the man who was charged alongside reputed Matthews Lane area leader Zeeks, for the April 2005 murders of Dayton Scotchbright Williams and Rodney Farquharson, was found not guilty in the Kingston Home Circuit Court. In the meantime, sources close to the case said that the prosecution has closed its case against Zeeks after calling 35 witnesses. The jury had retired until Monday, when Zeeks' defense is expected to start making his submission. The judge presiding over the murder trial of Zeeks, the reputed leader of the tough Matthews Lane community in downtown Kingston, on Thursday rejected a no-case submission by Zeeks' defense team, which sought to have all charges against their client dismissed. Zeeks' defense team has since started its submission before the jury, which had previously been retired for the duration of the no-case submission. Meanwhile, security measures implemented at the Supreme Court during the trial continue to be tight, as armed members of the security forces have cordoned off the immediate surroundings of the courtroom where the trial is being held, refusing access to members of the public. The security forces have also cordoned off the sidewalks adjoining the Supreme Court building, ensuring that all loitering is prevented. On Wednesday, April 12, 2006, Zeeks was found guilty of the April 2005 murders of Dayton Scotchbright Williams and Rodney Farquharson. The 12-member jury, after deliberating for just under 2 hours, found Zeeks guilty on 2 counts of non-capital murder. He is to be sentenced on Thursday, April 20, by Justice Horace Marsh. However, Zeeks' defense team has already given verbal notice of an appeal. We will be appealing the verdict, so you can expect another hearing to take place in the near future, defense lawyer Valerie Nita Robertson said while leaving the courtroom. Despite being convicted for non-capital murder, Zeeks could face the death penalty, as the law allows a person convicted of 2 non-capital murders to be punished in like manner as a person convicted of a capital murder. Paula Llewellyn, the Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, who marshaled the prosecution's case against Zeeks, expressed hope that Zeeks' conviction would reaffirm faith in the justice system. At the same time, Llewellyn heaped praises on the security forces and the witnesses who came forward in the Zeeks case. It was a combined effort, and the security forces were very professional in terms of their preparation of the evidence, said Llewellyn. Also, I would commend the witnesses who came forward and gave evidence. Their courage, we need more of that. Members of the constabulary and army took no chances and kept a strong presence outside the Supreme Court building, which is situated in close proximity to Zeeks' Matthews Lane stronghold. Only a few civilians were seen around the area when the verdict was announced. It was the opposite to what transpired last November, when police traded bullets with alleged supporters of Zeeks in the vicinity of the Supreme Court during one of Zeeks' court appearances for the murder charges. There was also minor skirmishes outside the court between the police and Zeeks supporters, who were angered that crowd control barriers prevented them from getting close to their hero. There were mixed reactions downtown to the conviction of the reputed Matthews area leader, Zeeks, who was found guilty of the 2005 murders of the 2 men in the Home Circuit Court on Wednesday. Some residents say Zeeks should not have been convicted for the murders of Dayton Scotchbright Williams and Rodney Farquharson because he was kind to the poor. However, at least one woman cautiously whispered her agreement with the guilty verdict, alleging that the reputed downtown strongman had committed a number of atrocities and should therefore be locked away for a very long time. Zeeks was sentenced to life in prison on Tuesday, May 30, 2016, bringing to a close one of Jamaica's more closely watched high-profile trials. But immediately after the verdict was handed down by Supreme Court Justice Horace Marsh, Zeeks' attorneys said they would take the case to the appeal court. Zeeks' sentence sparked animated debate across the capital, Kingston, with some persons rejoicing, while others commented on the 30 years imprisonment. Zeeks' attorneys had presented their character witnesses, who told the court of his philanthropy and honesty. It was because of his intervention in a dispute I had with another man that has allowed that man and I to be friends today, said Samuel Mitchell. Anthony Eastwood, a 61-year-old businessman, told the court that he had known Zeeks for about 15 years. When back to school time comes around, he would go around and ask for help in sending less fortunate kids back to school, said Eastwood. I supplied him with box juice on my wholesale business. Zeeks was always helpful to the community. Even on Mother's Day and Father's Day, he'll put on treats. That is the Zeeks I know. Lead defense attorney K. Churchill Nita told the court that Zeeks provided leadership for the residents of Matthews Lane and asked the judge to be lenient, given that Zeeks is the father of 15 children. It is not just his biological children that would suffer with his absence from the community, your lordship, said Nita, but also the nameless ones, the faceless ones who know him as Father Zeeks. I say this because Zeeks came to the court already demonized by the press and others who do not take into account the leadership role he plays in Matthews Lane. Zeeks is almost necessary to our society. Before handing down the sentence, Justice Marsh said that his decision would take into consideration the statements that were submitted by the character witnesses, as well as the fact that there were no previous convictions against Zeeks. Your character witnesses spoke of you as a kind and generous man, known to almost everybody, said the judge. However, a jury found you guilty of murder, and this is your sentence. On hearing that he would spend 30 years in prison, the 50-year-old Zeeks, dressed in a grey suit and white shirt and looking frail, hung his head. Moments later, he was taken away in handcuffs. Zeeks appeared in the Halfway Tree Resident Magistrates Court to answer to charges of obstructing electricity and unlawful possession of property. The charges are related to the seizure of money amounting to $80 million from his Highland Drive, Avondale home in May of the previous year. Yvonne salesman, Zeeks' common-law wife, who was charged alongside him for this offense, also appeared in court. The approximately $18 million was stolen from a safe at the Ministry of Finance's Financial Investigations Division FID, the same money that was seized from the former reputed Matthews Lane strongman Zeeks, a senior government source said. The money, which was seized in a police raid, was being held as an exhibit in a case against Zeeks. It could not be ascertained if there was a robbery at the Euro Circle offices of the Ministry of Finance where the money was being held, or if the money was removed clandestinely. The appellate court reserved judgment in the appeal of Zeeks against his conviction and the sentence for the murder of two men in downtown Kingston. On Friday, July 30, Zeeks lost his fight in the Court of Appeal to overturn his conviction for the double murder. The incarcerated 48-year-old Matthews Lane Don Zeeks lost his appeal against a double murder conviction in the Privy Council on Tuesday, July 26, 2012. The Privy Council dismissed the appeal on the grounds that Zeeks had no basis to challenge the decision of the High Court and the Court of Appeal. June 20, 2012 was the day of decision for the 48-year-old Zeeks, as the United Kingdom, in a 9-page judgment, dismissed his appeal against conviction on 2 counts of murder and the sentence of life imprisonment, with a minimum of 30 years in prison. And in dismissing the appeal of the reputed Matthews Lane Don, the Lordships declared, the board sees no basis for challenging the decisions of the court below. Indeed, the court would commend the judge's thorough and balanced summing up in a complex case and the very full and convincing review by the Court of Appeal. It was for the jury to resolve the direct conflict of evidence as to the involvement of the appellant. There was ample material on which they could reach their decision. The bodies of the 2 men were found in a burning heap of tires in an open lot near Matthews Lane in Western Kingston about 4 o'clock that fateful morning. Forensic evidence later revealed that the victims had died from multiple gunshot wounds before being burnt. Shortly after the bodies were found, Zeeks underwent 12 days of intense questioning from members of Operation Kingfish, spearheaded by Assistant Commissioner Glenmore Hines. Eventually, he was arrested and charged along with one Garfield Williams for the 2 murders. During a hearing in March 2006 before Justice Marsh and the jury, Williams was discharged after the prosecution had conceded that he had no case to answer. The trial continued thereafter against Zeeks. But this was a trial fraught with many security concerns, as during an application for bail on his behalf in November 2005, shots rang out near the precincts of the Supreme Court, and an attorney, Alicia Thomas, sitting in her office at 22 to 24 Duke Street, was hit in the face by shotgun pellets. She was later treated at the University Hospital of the West Indies. The shots ricocheted from the police barrier, Tower and King Streets, a few yards away, where the police reported they observed a large number of Zeeks supporters had gathered. The crowd was dispersed after members of the security forces fired shots in the air. The result was that security was heightened in and around the Supreme Court building, with the presence of additional soldiers and the police personnel at every appearance of Zeeks up to the conclusion of the case. A third application for bail by defense attorney Nita was opposed by Llewellyn on grounds that the main witness in the case had received death threats twice. She told the court that the murders had been committed while the accused on being bail on a possession of ammunition charge. Also, she added the prosecution was relying on a conversation which was alleged to have taken place on April 15, 2005 between Zeeks and a certain gentleman. A British chartered forensic engineer was dealing with the analysis of the phone calls, the court was told. Further, prosecuting counsel spoke to the voice identification by the witness, adding that the unnamed witness was someone who had known Zeeks for about 10 years and allegedly spoken to him on many occasions, both on the phone and in person. Llewellyn alleged that when Farquharson's cellular phone was dialed, Zeeks answered and told the witness that he should listen to Rodney for the last time, as it is the last time you'll hear his voice. The witness she related also knew Rodney and revealed that Rodney came on the phone and in a low voice said, "Boss, boss." It was later that same morning that the bodies were found, she told the court. And finally, prosecuting counsel released information that the scientific analysis of the cell site activities confirmed that Farquharson's cell phone was called by the main witness and friends at 3 a.m. on April 15, and confirmed also that the phone was answered in the vicinity of Matthews Lane. The allegations against Williams, she further added, was that a voice which sounded like his was heard in the background. Application for bail was therefore denied in October 2005 by a senior judge, Marvel McIntosh. At the trial in March 2006, 3 witnesses gave evidence of the prosecution in relation to the alleged conversations taking place with the accused, Zeeks, at or about the time of the murders. The first of the 3, identified only by his alias Kilroy, testified that he was a friend of Rodney and he had known Zeeks since 1991. He had often heard his voice but not previously on the phone. He said he had also heard a CD from Zeeks titled Cool Tuesday Parties, in which his voice could be heard. The other witness, described as Joe, said he had worked for Zeeks for 2 weeks in 2004 and heard him speak but not on the phone. The main witness, who had received death threats twice, according to the prosecuting counsel, testified that he had known Zeeks over 10 years through their membership in the People's National Party PNP. He said he had spoken to him both in person and on the telephone. The witness told the court that the calls started about midnight with one from Kilroy to Rodney on his cell phone and was later to a conversation with Zeeks. Zeeks called back on the same phone and Kilroy put his phone on speaker so that others with him, including Joe, were able to hear. Thereafter, the witness recounted that they all gathered at his house where further calls were made to and from Zeeks on Rodney's phone. It seemed it continued from the way the conversations were heading that Zeeks was holding Rodney and he wanted Kilroy to come over, but another friend called him, but Zeeks did not say why. According to the witness, it seemed that Rodney was in trouble, for in the last exchange, Zeeks asked him, "You love Rodney?" And before he could respond, the witness said that Zeeks continued, "This is the last time you're going to hear his voice." The following morning, the witness told the judge and jury called Zeeks to find out what had happened to Rodney, and his response was that he had not seen Rodney for 2 weeks. The witness described Zeeks then as appearing very calm and humble, in contrast with his very aggressive manner the previous night. In an unsworn statement from the dock, Zeeks told the court that Rodney was a good friend, but he did not know Scotch-Brite. He claimed he had nothing to do with the murders and that the prosecution witnesses were telling lies on him. He called one witness, David Foster, who testified that he had known the accused for about 10 years. He knew him as a community leader in the Matthews Lane area. On the day in question, there had been a dispute between Rodney and a man known as Scandal about a quantity of ganja which was being stored by him, Foster. He testified further that he then arranged for them to meet at Luke Lane around midnight. At that meeting, he said Rodney was with Scotch-Brite and Scandal was with 2 friends known as Millard and Lionheart. Foster then described a struggle which he reported took place over a bag of ganja, and the matter ended with Lionheart shooting Scotch-Brite in the head and Scandal following suit by shooting Rodney. He himself was also shot and fell unconscious to the ground. He added that he had no recollection of any cell phones being used in the exchanges. According to Foster, the next thing he knew was that he found himself on a cart with Rodney and Scotch-Brite being pushed by Millard and Scandal along Beeston Street and onto Rose Lane, where they were dumped in an open lot. The court heard from the witness that he managed at that stage to get away before collapsing unconscious at the intersection of Matthews Lane and Haywood Street. He gained consciousness, he said, at the Kingston Public Hospital and remained there for about 2 weeks, during which time he gave a statement to the police. In that statement, Foster claimed he had been forced by Millard, who had threatened him to say he had been shot out by Ward Theatre area. Finally, Foster, who claimed to have not been only an eyewitness but also a victim of the same shootings, told the court that Zeeks was not involved. It is noteworthy to mention that independent technical evidence in the case revealed 3 important points. 1. Evidence was supplied by the prosecution to show that there was usage of the relevant cell phones in the area between 2 and 3 in the morning when the murders took place. 2. Foster's account of his own treatment was consistent with DNA evidence, linking him to bloodstains found by the police at Matthews Lane. 3. The hospital records disclose that Foster was admitted to the Kingston Public Hospital at 3:13 a.m. with a history of gunshot wound to the right mid-face and an exit wound on the left neck. Evidence was also given by Oliver Clue, a PMP politician who was at the time a counsel for the Arborview Division, who related a telephone conversation the night of the murder with the accused, that just after the applicant had told him that he should be in bed with his wife, he also said that "my dick is in Rodney's mouth," causing him further upset and prompting him to say to the applicant in response, "You know that you're a madman, you're a very madman." Following up on this summing by his lordship on April 12, 2006, Zeeks was found guilty by the jury of 2 counts of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 30 years. The government has been given a period of 3 months by the High Court within which to return the more than $18 million seized by the police from the home of convicted murderer Donald Zekes Phipps. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily uploads.